If you've been struggling to sustain high notes with power, I'm going to show you how to fix that. Sustaining high notes are all about setting them up the right way. The right way would be the right balance of registers, chest voice, pharyngeal voice, and head voice, which we've talked about. If you're going to try to sustain a note in straight chest voice, it's going to feel labored, very, very strainy, and it's not going to last long. So that would be something like this. And that happens every time I try to do that. So instead, what I'm going to do is take chest voice, where I was just singing, and I'm going to blend that with a little bit of that pharyngeal voice, which is the next register up. The chest voice resonates in the mouth, but I'm going to also put a little bit of the sound up through this tiny little vertical hallway that goes up in between my mouth and my nasal passage. By putting a little bit there, I take a little pressure off of that chest voice, and I do what's called a blend or a mix. I'm going to let some of that whine take over. Now, once we get it into the lyrics, nobody will really think, oh wow, that's whiny. They're going to think, oh wow, that's so released. I can hold that as long as my air lasts. Another thing you can do to set it up correctly is to make sure that you have a balanced level of both whininess and hoot. The whine is that It sometimes comes from the sound being in that pharyngeal cavity, but sometimes the whine can come from a high larynx position. The larynx is your Adam's apple. When it's high, sometimes the sound gets smaller and more shallow and more thin. But when your larynx is lower, it tends to spread out and get bigger and have this more broad, rich, boomier feel to it. You could do that in head voice, of course. Or you can do it also in a mixed voice. So when you're looking to sustain a note, be sure that you have a good balance of this and this ooh. I call it the bliss point. When snack companies are trying to get us addicted to another snack item, they have to make sure that there's a great balance of salty and sweet. When a singing voice has a great balance of this and this woo, it keeps us coming back for more. I'll show you what I mean. All by myself anymore. Now that's a mixed voice. It just isn't a very good sounding mixed voice. Now I could flip it over to the opposite extreme and do more of the hoot. All by myself anymore. Little bit too extreme on that end of the spectrum. Also, sometimes what can happen with that is we end up not retaining enough power, and so the high note ends up too woofy and also too head voicey. So what I want to do instead is really balance out the and the whoo. So I've got some on both sides. It's that bliss point. All by myself anymore. That's right down the center. Now your voice might naturally be a little bit more woofy and boomy, or your voice might be a little more naturally whiny and edgy. So you'll have to make the balancing act according to your natural voice. Pay attention to your speaking voice, maybe even ask a friend to kind of weigh in. If you need help, a coach is a great way to help you get an outside perspective on kind of what type of voice you are and therefore what you need to focus on more.